Yo, the enemy's public, I gotta keep my eyes open. Pay attention, stop walking around like you blindfolded. This not the World Cup, but Nasir be kicking knowledge. This is the type of information you can never learn in college. It's time to fight back, it's no more trying to play it cool. We got interviews, podcasts, and got the latest news. So sit back and relax, we about to get it started. Earth is a canvas, and guess who's the con artist? They brainwashing us, the system corrupted. You are now rocking with the enemy's public. You are now rocking with the enemy's public. I said you are now rocking with the enemy's public. Hey.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. We have heard things about artificial intelligence when it comes to technology producing a film, music, photos. Yet there's artificial intelligence that has been around for a long time that we haven't paid attention to. It's the artificial flavors and artificial coloring and artificial food altogether. And a first, the United States Food and Drug Administration has decided that a meat product grown in a lab is safe to eat. The lab-grown chicken produced by the company Upside Foods cannot be sold quite yet. First, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, will need to inspect the food, the company's product facilities and products. Yet, the United States decided that we could have artificial meats. Now, a lot of us, when we were growing up, were eating a lot of artificial foods. Now, they'll take like the so-called cereals that we eat. They'll say it's fortified with vitamins and minerals when it's mostly sugar and artificial flavors. And it's actually poisoning us as a child all the way up through adulthood, poisoning us. Now, Liz Specht says this is huge for the industry. The Vice President of Science and Technology at the Good Food Institute, a non-profit promoting alternatives to animal products, tells the New York Times. Claire Tonisketter, for the first time, this is the FDA giving the green light to a cultivated meat product. We will see this as the day the food program and the food system really start changing. Managing partner at the Food Technology Investment for Synthesis Capital tells the Washington Post, Laura Riley, the U.S. is the first meaningful market that has approved this. This is seismic and groundbreaking. Upside Foods lab-grown meat is biologically identical to standard meat, but it doesn't require killing animals. Its cultivation process begins with cells extracted from real chickens, which the company grow in tanks, with a nutrient mixture that includes fats, sugars, amino acids, and vitamins. The cells mature and multiply according to NPR's Allison Aubrey. The process is similar to brewing beer, but instead of growing yeast and microbes, we grow animal cells. Now, this is actually cloning. That's what it is. We're going to tell it like it is, and we're going to say what it is. It's actually cloning, taking the cells from the real animals and cloning the meats. So we don't know exactly what we're eating when we're ordering steaks or chickens or whatever meat people are consuming. The people don't know what we're eating. Now I'm going to show a few video clips of people showing how they glue their meat together. Now we have to be mindful. When I was growing up, I used to go get Kentucky Fried Chicken, Church's Chicken growing up. They were regular size chickens. And I used to always ponder and wonder in my mind, how many chickens can you kill before you kill them all? And are we really eating real meats? Peace to my brother Dominique, my brother Keith West, and the brother House of Congress. Peace. Now, there's a process when we see people eating these real big, gigantic, chunky steaks, thinking that they're getting more for their money. What they're actually getting is meat glued together with meat glue. The FDA has approved meat glue. And when you see these big chunky steaks and you're cutting into it and you're consuming it, just know that you're eating meat glue. Peace to my brother Greedy Vegan, Your Talk Media. Now I'm going to share my screen and show these videos of the people showing the process of how they glue the meat together. When we go to restaurants, they offer us, so much. They want us to think we're getting more for our buck. But what they're actually doing is getting rid of their inventory and their back inventory, and they'll give us a whole lot. And we, as my mother used to say, eyes bigger than our stomach, being greedy, and we ordering these big gigantic steaks and chicken breasts. I mean, I've never seen such big chicken breasts and drumsticks and wings. And a lot of us there say, give me the jumbo wings, thinking we're getting more, but you got a cloned chicken. When I was growing up, wings and breasts and drumsticks wasn't as big as they are now. Now they're huge. You have to actually go in and look for the small ones instead of looking for the big ones. You have to go say, look for the small ones, because we know something's wrong with them. It's a lot of diabolical things that's going on when it comes to these these foods that they're saying that we can eat now.
Is good meat, and Upside Foods have received approval. Lab-grown meat is cultivated from animal cells in steel tanks. Its proponents say it's a more sustainable kind of meat production, better for both animals and the environment. The US is the second country to approve lab-grown meat after Singapore did so in 2020.
Ultimately, the cells do what they do. They like to double, they like to grow, and then ultimately they become meat. So after 7 to 14 days or a little longer, depending on what we're making, we harvest the cells, and then we can make it into any meat product that you love. So it could be a chicken fillet, it could be a hamburger, a hot dog, it could be pretty much anything that you can think of.
Well, Ricardo San Martin is director of the University for California.
Straight up Franken chicken, FRANKENSTEAK, Franken all of this foolishness.
Berkeley's Alternative or Alt Meat Lab, as it's known, and joins us now from Berkeley. Good to have you with us, Professor, live on Al Jazeera. Can we just start with how feasible you think this new technology is? And is it a solution to a long-term problem, perhaps, of meat production?
My response is based on very well-known fermentation science, and all the analysis we have done here at the College of Engineering at University of California, Berkeley, indicate that, unfortunately, everything is against having these cells and this meat production at scale in an economical way.
Why does the scale or the upscaling, you might say, of production not sort of add up as far as you're concerned?
Man is greedy. They don't want to take the time to grow the chickens and the cows, and on top of running out of them, but they don't want to take the time of the natural process of growing the chickens and the cows, feeding them correctly. Just like everything else, they want chicken, steak, hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever people consume. They want it grown in mass production. This is the greed. That's all this is the greed. They introduce it to us as something new and innovative, and the ignorant among us bite it hook, line, and sinker. Yet this is greed on the part of the merchants and the people who run these companies. They want to make money off the people, serving to their detriment. And people are going to buy this stuff and eat it because people don't go by what it do to you. They go by what it tastes like. If it tastes good, people will eat it. And again, this is the greed, because the cows and the chickens and those who eat pig don't grow fast enough. It don't grow fast enough. Even the fruits and vegetables don't grow fast enough. The people can't wait till the harvest come in. They do that artificially. Mass production, so it can end up in your local supermarket, ready for you to buy and consume.
Oh, the thing is, the cells are living organisms and have their limitations, and they depend on the oxygen they receive or the nutrients they're given, and they have limits to how many you can grow in these fermenters. And the fermenters are very expensive, and these cells are animal cells prone to contamination and viruses, which makes biosafety add to the cost. And therefore, the investment in this kind of facilities is very large. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And because of that, then although it's technically feasible to produce them at small scale, it's not economically feasible to produce them at large scale.
What sort of historical evidence is there that ideas like this, that require millions of dollars for development, don't actually work in the end? Is there any example that you can give us?
Well, when you're against nature, there's a very clear example, and I did all my grad studies when I was young on this topic, which is the replacement of gasoline or oil by ethanol. That was in the 1980s. That was the major thing every country in the Western countries were investing on. And so hundreds of millions of dollars were dedicated to obtain sugars from forests, and then make those sugars with yeast, make them ethanol and run cars. Until this day, this had been impossible to do. And that's because of the nature and the complexity of
Peace to the goddess of love
shapes and forms.
Thanks for coming through.
What nature has done.
Sometimes science has a weird way of finding other solutions by accident. Do you think there is a practical application for the technology that's being used that could be used in another positive way?
it could be used as the companies they're claiming at making an expensive ingredient, let's say fat cells, to add.
All of this to produce a artificial meat. Now, when we're at these restaurants ordering, filet of fish, chicken sandwiches, crispy and grilled, we don't know what we're eating. Because it came from this place. We don't even know it. Because if it's going to be cheaper, a lot of these restaurants will purchase it as opposed to ordering, real meats and vegetables. Even the halal spots, don't get it twisted. Even the halal spots will order this if it's going to be cheaper. They won't necessarily serve it to themselves, but if they have a restaurant, they'll sell it to us because they're so-called Muslims, and they sell cigarettes, they sell pork to our people, they sell all these things that's detrimental to our people. They don't consume it, but they'll sell it to us.
To plant-based matrices, and then you could, by doing that,
peace to my brother, the real
flavor, or you can impart texture to plant-based foods. So that's a way of lowering the costs. But there's no way you can do, like, let's say, a chicken fillet at a reasonable cost with these technologies.
Do you think, though, that I say, US regulators have given the green light to this technology and to this development? Do you believe that governments and researchers have to take a chance? You have to try something out to see whether it's going to work or not.
You have to. I'm a scientist myself, and I belong to the College of Engineering of UC Berkeley. So there's no way we are going to face the problems we're facing of human growth, and climate change without technology. But you have to do a clear assessment and differentiate between what technology can.
This is actually death on a plate. I've always said that our pantry and our refrigerator should serve as our medicine cabinet. But most case scenario, our pantry and our refrigerator is a nail in our coffin because of what we put in it and take out of it and consume as a people. We don't know what we're eating. A lot of us, we go to Chick-fil-A. We just show chicken grown in a lab. Restaurants, we order, chicken cutlets and all this other stuff, not knowing where it came from. We have to be mindful. And we also have to learn how to grow our own fruits and vegetables, because they're doing it with the fruits and vegetables also. Anything that can't reproduce itself is a clone, including vegetables with no seeds in it, fruits with no seeds in it. If it doesn't have a seed in it, it's cloned. Because why? Just like human beings, it can't reproduce itself. Everything has a way to reproduce itself. If you don't see a seed, it's a clone.
To do because of its limit of the boundaries it has with a business. And what you're probably listening is the business narrative, and you can probably make a small business out of that, profitable, but that's not a game-changing solution to replacing meat with this kind of developments. It's a very expensive development. All these companies are thinking of hundreds of.
It's a expensive development, but it's going to pay for itself in the long run. When they produce this product in mass production, get the restaurants and the people to buy it and consume it. See, our people walk around, people in general, not just our people, but my concern is our people. We need to wake up and not be fooled by low prices and advertisement, because they always introduce something to us as good when it's not good for us. That's how they advertise. That's how we buy hook, line, and sinker. And they'll play a commercial repetitiously to those of us who fall for this type of thing. And then we end up buying the merchandise that's no good for us.
Millions of dollars to create facilities that would only replace, a few thousand animals.
It'll be interesting to see how this does move forward. But for the moment, we'll leave it there. Ricardo San Martin from the University of California. Thanks so much for joining us on Al Jazeera, sir.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
You buy chicken at your grocery store because it might have come from a lab backed by Bill Gates. If you guessed Bill Gates for your lab-grown meat, if Bill Gates was on your lab-grown meat bingo card, then you win the night.
Okay. Do you picture this like in
crossroads
Star
of
Wars, where
Here we go, Bill Gates again, a software mogul, information technology mogul, interested in everything outside of his realm of professionalism.
where she like 1/4 portion, and then she puts water in it,
Yeah,
becomes big.
disgusting. That's what I picture, and that's actually what it is. We're going to show you some video of this in a second here. That it might have come from lab. The meat that you buy at the grocery store might have come from a lab backed by Bill Gates instead of a farm. This story might leave you questioning the very essence of our food supply. Over the past few days, the United States Department of Agriculture, the kids call it the USDA for short, has just approved the sale of lab-grown meat from not one, but two companies funded by Bill Gates. That's right, folks. The man who wants to control every aspect of our lives is now trying to dictate what we eat. The two companies that just won approval are a company number one called Good Meat. The company number two is Up.
We must not get it twisted. They are saying that it's approved now, but don't think for a second that this product hasn't been circulating around stores and restaurants and every major supermarket in every major city. They're just telling us about it now, but I guarantee you, those of us who eat like that ate some of that already a while ago.
Upside Foods. First, can we just take notice of their names? Good Meat and Upside Foods. Good Meat's parent company is called Eat Just. In other words, the meat you currently are eating from a farm is bad meat or somehow unethical, is what they're saying.
They're saying it is unethical, and how they try to get us to conform to what they're trying to do is, how they justify it is, they're saying they don't have to kill the animal to get the meat. They just take the cells and they'll cultivate the cells in a lab to create the cloned chicken, cow, pig, what have you. And to me, that's nothing but deceptive intelligence trying to make evil fair seeming. That's all it is.
With these names, right? I work at Eat Just because I'm a just person.
It'll work. It'll work. Look at all the people that buy all natural and all that from the grocery stores, because it just sounds like it's the right thing to do.
For sure.
I eat at Good Meat. Oh, I get my meat from Good Meat. So it's not a slaughtered meat. It's Good Meat.
And
it's
what's the name of the Impossible Meat? The burgers that have
the Impossible Burger, yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's the other one.
Yep.
There's what's the competitor to that?
Beyond Meat.
Beyond. Okay.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond.
Okay.
So, their names are one thing, right?
See, just like the young lady just said, the Impossible Burgers and the Beyond Meat, there's no telling what that is. They'll always say it's new, innovative, and healthy for us. They say sugar frosted flakes and Captain Crunch is fortified with vitamins and minerals, and that is good for you. But it's all sugar and artificial flavors.
that basically your meat is bad. Somehow you're unethical for the meat you eat. You're currently unjust if you eat from a farm. We'll unpack that in a minute. Let's start with what proponents of lab-grown meat say about it. First, they say this process eliminates the need for animal slaughter, paving the way for meat production that doesn't require any animals at all. Secondly, proponents of lab-grown meat, the stuff you're seeing here on your screen, shows that there are significant environmental benefits. They say this, right?
Did they check to see how cancerous it is? Did they check that?
The traditional animal agriculture contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions and deforestation. Again, this is what they say.
But it does require an animal. You need to like pluck a feather or something to get the DNA. You do need a source, a host.
Right. You do need animal protein. This is why it's not, for vegetarians, for vegans, you can't have this lab-grown meat because it's...
We're worrying about AI. This is an old form of AI. This is really AI.
Still comes from animal proteins, right? So if
they're going to pluck feathers for beef, they're doing it wrong already. So I'm going to throw that out there.
Some sort of dinosaur meat. Anyway, first they say this process eliminates the need for animal slaughter.
And that's a big fact, Brother Keith. This stuff probably causes obesity and everything. Putting the fatty cells in and putting the steroids in, putting the ingredients in to make it grow quicker and make it fatter and thicker. Its structure becomes your structure. So therefore, you may see a 10-year-old built like a 25-year-old because of what he or she is eating.
Paving the way for meat production that doesn't require any animals at all. Secondly, proponents of lab-grown meat claim that there are significant environmental benefits. Traditional animal agriculture contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions and deforestation. Again, this is what they say. And how exactly does this work? Well, according to Andrew Noyes, who is the head of PR for Good Meat's parent company called Eat Just, the lab-grown meat, stuff in the petri dish, also known as cell-based or cultivated meat, is produced directly from animal cells, cultivated in what he calls bioreactors with the help of nutrients like amino acids. He says to picture massive brewery-like vats rather than petri dishes in sterile laboratories. Once ready, the meat is then collected from these bioreactors and then processed. He says it looks like minced chicken. Now, you might be wondering, why should we be worried about lab-grown meat? Well, for starters, it's an affront to our traditional agricultural industry, which has been the backbone of the United States for centuries. And family farms are being crushed by regulations. And now they face direct competition from these lab-grown alternatives. I think it's a direct attack. I mean, it's really, to my mind, a direct attack on our hardworking farmers and ranchers who have dedicated their lives.
Exactly. The farmers, the ones who don't sell out. They can't make a living because of the labs. If they're not stealing our land, they're making a way to cut our money off. Because the Food and Drug Administration, the United States Department of Agriculture, is involved in this. Cutting the farmers out, the hard-working farmers out, not allowing them to make a living because of greed.
To feeding America and frankly the rest of the world, but we're focusing on America in this story. We recently had a Wyoming rancher on the show who talked about these attacks, and she talked about this lab-grown meat problem.
So I'm certainly not an expert on, how much land they require. What I do know that we saw in the United States was the meatless options were the last things left in the meat case. During the pandemic, everybody was eating the real products. Every food source has an environmental footprint, period. right? There's an environmental impact to everything that we eat, whether it's plant or whether it's animal. What I do know is here in the United States, we are losing hundreds of acres of some of our best quality crop ground every single day as urban expansion occurs. You know, they're building housing developments, they're putting up schools and parking lots and, you know, shopping structures. And that's land we will never get back in production. Land is a finite resource. And so, you know, we can't make more of it. So where's all of this additional food going to come from? Because to even come close to replacing the nutrition that we would need to replace by eliminating animal source proteins, how would we ever begin to grow enough additional crops without the land being available to do that? And
the answer to that question is the same way they're making the fake meat. They're making the fake vegetables and the fake fruits in a lab. Fake greenhouses, artificial light. These people are modern day Frankensteins.
I think that's something that I constantly ask that no one has an answer for, because the reality is I don't think that you can. We simply do not have the land available.
But the implications go beyond economic devastation. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was going to ask, like, think about the ecosystem. So it's like, what are you going to have? You're going to have solely now milk producing and nothing else. No more leather, no more. Like, there's not going to be this circle of things that come from one animal. Like, it's not like it's.
They've been stopped producing real leather. They've been stopped producing real leather. When I was growing up, you had a leather pair of sneakers. It used to wrinkles. Now this leather stays straight. It don't wrinkle or nothing. That's back in the days. That's how we can tell if your clothes, if your leather was real. If it didn't have any type of wrinkles in it, we call it pleather. They've been stopped that.
It's just producing meat. You know, they have different things that they produce. So it's like you're going to have to get those sources from somewhere. And then you have all of these cattle. What are they going to do? Just euthanize them and waste that meat? Like, you know, like, because the whole industry will be disrupted. Like, that just makes zero sense.
Right. And she talks about in this interview about how much carbon or nitrogen, I can't remember, is trapped under ranches like this, because there's a whole circle in place, is that when these grazing animals graze, they encourage the growth of plants, which is good for the environment. This is all true. So we would just completely remove this from the ecosystem.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's devastating for these.
Brother Jonathan, that's how the meat's being made. They are taking cells of the whatever product they're making, whether it's chicken, pork, or beef. They're taking the cells and they're cultivating the cells to create the meat. That's what they're doing, good brother.
Farmers, it's devastating for the economy. It's devastating for the ecology, but they don't want to admit it. They want to kind of pretend that it's not, and they'd rather focus on the meat that you're getting from these farmers. And the implications go beyond this economic devastation. Lab-grown meat poses serious health risks, by the way. The mainstream media conveniently ignores this part of the story.
Again, are they checking to see how cancerous the products are? Because if real meat can cause cancer by any means and by every means, so artificial meat will cause cancer.
These synthetic creations are produced in laboratories using unknown chemicals and processes. We have no idea what the long-term effects of consuming such unnatural products might be in our bodies. Are we willing to sacrifice our health for this sort of convenience of lab-grown meat? Bill Gates doesn't want you to think about this.
Well, I think that it speaks to, did you want to let him speak?
No.
I think it speaks to, though, the sort of faddism of food, especially in the American diet, because people will sort of buy into it and the stock market will buy into it. So when you think about the popularity of Beyond Burger, Impossible Burger, it seems very chic. The last time I was in the US, I couldn't get over how many aisles of collagen coffee powders there were in the Whole Foods. And I was like, what the hell is this? This is new since I was home last. Collagen coffee, like, we love that shit. We eat it up because if it seems like it's going to promote anything and we can put it into something else, right? It's just, it's almost too easy. It's too easy to manipulate us with food fashion.
Yeah.
Well, and also if you think about it, like if they take control of all the farms and they make it basically like illegal to produce meat. So you have ranchers that produce good meat right now, right? So they have no control over what they can put in that meat, you know, what they can.
Pretty soon, just remember, Brother Nasir said it. I don't know if I said it first, but I'm going to say it. They're going to start raiding health food stores because they want us on their drugs. They don't want us taking nutrients and things that's beneficial to us, the turmerics, the ginger roots and all that stuff. They want us taking drugs, not vitamins. There's a difference between medicine and drugs. They want us taking their drugs. And excuse me, this is a prime example. The Food and Drug Administration, okay? They put in food and drugs and they're administering it to our people. That's what they're doing. And our people need to turn down everything that they offer us.
You can put in the milk. If they're making it in a lab, they can put whatever they want in it and not tell us. We'll be getting inoculated with all kinds of stuff, most likely, you know, and it's like we'd have no control. So that's why I like having the ability to go to a local farmer and get meat that I know how it's raised. I know what it's eating. I know what's in its body, but like think they're losing control of that regulation because that movement is getting a lot more popular. More people are eating that way. More people want to know where their food comes from. And I don't think they like that.
And making demands of these ranchers to say, hey, you know, the food that we do not want like mRNA shots.
And what they're probably going to do to those of us who consume it, like everything else, they're going to make it addictive to have the American people strung out on whatever they're producing in these labs. They're going to have the people strung out, addictive to this.
It's in this meat. Like, can you make sure that there's no,
family.
No mRNA shots going into this beef? And ranchers can say, yeah, I can do that, and I can serve you specifically. This is the meat that we're not using these shots with, and these antibiotics and these other things. So, are we willing to sacrifice our health for the convenience of this lab-grown meat? Bill Gates doesn't want you to think about that. In fact, Bill Gates is the biggest backer of these companies. He's heavily funded these lab-grown meat companies to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. But when you dive more deeply into where his money is going, you're going to notice something interesting. Bill Gates, a few years ago, planted the seed with the mainstream media and $13 million to media organizations. Listen to this. He had the goal, of course, of pushing a plant-based meat narrative. He donated $13 million to the Atlantic magazine and the Guardian. And soon after he donated money to these newspapers, well, they started writing articles about fake meat.
People talk about plant-based this and plant-based that. It doesn't mean that it's good. If you're not certain how the product is produced, if you're not producing the product, you still don't know what you're eating. Because even with the weed, if you are not mindful who you're getting it from, you're getting the weed that the government produce, it's full of a lot of stuff that's detrimental to our well-being. So we need to be mindful of that. All I say is turn it down. Just turn it down, refuse it.
It's amazing how money buys the media. Look at this headline. This is in the Guardian after he donates the money. Plant-based meat, by far the best climate investment, report finds. Here's another one. Oh, the Guardian's really on this beat suddenly. Why is the Guardian so obsessed with this? The most damaging farm products? Organic pasture-fed beef and lamb, writes the Guardian. Wow.
What?
Hey, thanks for the money, Bill Gates. Here's
Take a
an
look
article.
at the seed oil industry. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Here's another article from the Guardian. Remember, the Guardian, by the way, was the newspaper that broke the
Edward Snowden.
Edward Snowden. I mean, how they have fallen. Anyway, here's the Guardian. Climate-friendly diets can make a huge difference, even if you don't go all out vegan. Yeah, here, eat the fake meat, it points out. Here's another one. Here's the...
Even if you go out straight up vegan, you have to be mindful where you're getting your vegetables from, where you're getting your fruits from. You will have to grow them yourself to be certain of what you're getting. Because the same way they're producing these meats, they're producing fruits and vegetables. And we got to be mindful. We have to learn how to grow our own fruits and vegetables and secure them, because I always think, you know, when I was being taught as a youngster, I was always taught to have knowledge of self and others, of how they think. Because I don't put it past farmers growing fresh fruits and vegetables. I don't put it past somebody flying over with a crop duster, poisoning and tainting the fruits and vegetables. I don't put it past them doing that. So you have to secure it. We always talking about getting land. We have to think security minded at all times. How to secure what we procure. We have to know how to secure it. And we have to think security all the time, because we're up against a wickedly wise, vicious enemy. Vicious.
The Atlantic also took money from Bill Gates. What's different about the Impossible Burger?
It's gross.
And here's another one. Oh, and here's the other one. Plant-based food entrepreneurs are marketing their meatless products to omnivores. And then here's another Atlantic article. Will we ever stop eating animal meat? Asks the Atlantic. Thanks for your money, Bill Gates. We need more moral arguments against meat. We need a technological revolution in better, cleaner food, by Derek Thompson. Hey, thanks for your money, Bill Gates. We'll write an article for you. This is how the media works. You send them $13 million and they will back your narrative.
The media, multi-ethnic destruction in America. That's what media is.
So how do we know that Gates is invested in promoting plant-based meat? Well, he's done countless interviews on the subject, and he's put billions of dollars promoting it. Here he is during an MIT interview. Bill Gates' rich nations should shift entirely to synthetic beef, he says in this interview. Gates told the MIT Technology Review, quote, I don't think...
Why aren't people or the government doing something about this man? Now, this is what you call misinformation. Why isn't he censored for giving out misinformation, telling us that we should eat anything synthetic? It's against our well-being.
I don't think the poorest 80 countries will be eating synthetic meat. I do think all rich countries should move to 100% synthetic beef. He said you can get used to the taste difference. And the claim is they're going to make it taste even better over time, he says. Eventually, that green premium is modest enough that you can sort of change your behavior of people or use regulation to totally shift the demand. I mean, reading that statement, it's like Dr. Evil statement that I'm reading.
Yes,
I mean,
but it's true though, because if you can get someone convicted enough, for instance, you know, we tried to eat gluten-free for a while, and we still don't eat a lot of gluten, but in the United States, I would get these gluten-free bread products, and I'd be like, it's the same, right, honey? Right? Like
we'd try to convince ourselves.
I would try and convince myself that I could get used to it, that it was fine. And they're awful. And then
if they get it close to tasting decent, it's filled with like 1,000 other chemicals.
Yes.
So what are you doing to yourself?
Well, think about how easy it was for them to get us all on board with CFL light bulbs. Like we all replaced every bulb in our house with CFL light bulbs. And then we found out later how bad they were. They can't dispose of them. And it's like we all bought into it. So they can sell this stuff so easily on the convenience, on, hey, it's better for the environment. Like, so many people are going to buy into this. And at the end of the day, like, then that's like perfect for them. I think it's funny too. I called Bill Gates the crossroads of corruption, because it's like all of this corruption leads to him, and it's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, what's weird too is that something's going on with Bill Gates, because over the
This is what money will get you. This is what money will get you.
past few weeks, I have, had Whitney Webb here on the show, and I've asked her this question, but then like, why are suddenly we're getting this like mainstream media hit pieces on Bill Gates? It's weird. And then today, front page of the Wall Street Journal, big expose about how girls who would go and interview for jobs at his office were like asked all sorts of like sexual questions and all sorts of really creepy stuff. So something's about to happen to Bill Gates. There's some sort of
I wonder
big,
if he built Matt Lauer's door.
who knows? Something's coming though for him. I don't know what it is, but there's some sort of something's unfolding. Anyway, just to go back to his statement, you can get used to the.
If he's doing that, he should be brought up on charges. If he's doing that weird shit.
Taste difference. And the claim is they're going to make it taste even better. And he says you can sort of change the behavior of people or use regulation to shift that demand. So he knows how this works. Basically going to force you to eat this. So he believes all rich countries should move to 100% synthetic beef, he says. This is a threat to our freedom of choice, in my opinion, because we have a God-given right to choose what we eat. And imagine a world where the only option.
Why are old, decrepit people are always trying to find a way to destroy the people and destroy the world? Why are these people like this? When they get a whole lot of money, the only thing that they can think of doing is destroying people and destroying the world.
Options available are a manufactured beef in a lab or a manufactured chicken in a lab controlled by the likes of Bill Gates. That's what we're moving to. This is a step towards complete control over our food supply, giving powerful, hungry elites the ability to manipulate and dictate what we put on our plates. It's an assault on our individual freedoms and our right to make choices for ourselves. Just look at what's happening in the Netherlands today. Huge protest today, Thursday. In fact, we had a lot of viewers last night saying, oh, Thursday, big protest in the Netherlands from the farmers. Massive protests. They've taken 3,000 farms away. Farmers' lives ruined. Their goal is to remove all farms and traditional meat production, which they believe is killing the planet. With no evidence, by the way, they say this. Never mind, last week we saw a new report saying the Earth has actually been cooling over the last 20 years instead of heating up. But don't tell them that. By the way, that story got no mainstream media coverage. That was like a fart in the wind. It went away real fast, which is the best place to fart. So much for your cows are causing the Earth to heat up argument. So this, it's making the Earth get real.
That's nonsense, because cows have been around for centuries. All of a sudden, they're causing the earth to heat up. No, aerosols, all this nonsense, this foolishness is what's causing. What about all the unnatural things that's put in the air? Perhaps that's causing the earth to heat up.
Really warm and hot. Or is it? No, actually the opposite's happening. So, but that's inconvenient. But what about the environmental impact of this lab-grown meat? Is it somehow going to save the planet? Advocates claim it's more sustainable as an alternative, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the resources required to produce lab-grown meat on a large scale are astronomical. In fact, it uses a massive amount of energy intensive, that you wouldn't believe, not to mention the massive amounts of water and chemicals involved to make this happen. In fact, a recent study by UC Davis found that lab-grown meat could be up to 25 times worse for the environment. Up to 25 times worse. 25x, not like one time or two times. No, 25 times worse. Here is UC Davis in an interview in California. Watch.
New this morning, lab-grown meat made from animal cells is thought to be better for the environment, but a new study from UC Davis shows that lab-grown meat could potentially have a worse carbon footprint. Joining us live with the details of this new study is one of the authors, Edward Spank. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Happy to be here.
Edward, tell us the top takeaways from the study.
Peace to my brother Brown's Flat Power.
Yeah, so we conducted a study, and it shows that there's a risk that cultured meat actually might be worse for the environment in some situations than animal agriculture. Much of this risk is that, if we're using production methods typical of the pharmaceutical industry, it requires really resource-intensive ingredients to grow this material than if we grow it in sort of a food production environment.
Oh, interesting.
Who'd have thought?
Next time, Edward, adjust your camera so you don't look like a tiny person. Anyway, to me, it's clear this so-called solution is actually exacerbating the very problems that it claims to solve. It's just another scheme by the World Economic Forum globalist agenda to control and manipulate the masses and to make billions of dollars of profits in the process. We must support our...
The second part, making the billions of dollars. The cows, the pigs, the chickens, the lamb, they don't grow fast enough. So they found another way to get it to the supermarkets without waiting for the animals to grow. They'll just, like the lady said, pluck a feather or take some cells, cultivate them, grow the meat, ship it out, pack it, sell it. It's about making money. It's about greed. Evident it's not about the welfare of the people.
Our local farmers, I believe, and I think we need to reclaim our food system before it's too late. We are watching it slip away, guys. Thank you to the farmers in the Netherlands and the people in the Netherlands who are rising up and saying, hey, this political party, this fake political party that was supposed to be supporting us is actually not. And we need your support. 3,000 farms taken away. It's coming to the United States. It's happening already.
Yeah, and I feel like we're going to be inundating our body with synthetics. Like these synthetics aren't good. Everything that a cow produces is natural. I want to eat natural stuff that my body is able to break down naturally. My body has to figure out how to produce synthetics and how to break those down. And I don't want my body going through that, because who knows what that's going to do.
Yeah. I mean, you saw the World Health Organization today, after decades of legal battles about aspartame, finally, now the World Health Organization is going to label aspartame as a cancer-causing agent. Yeah, the stuff that's in Diet Coke.
And yogurt.
Yeah, the stuff that people eat, like, hey, it's aspartame. It's fine. At least I'm not putting on calories. No, but you are dying of cancer.
Stuff they don't allow in most countries other than the United States. There's some countries that won't allow that, and sodium benzoate too, which is a preservative we use here that they won't use in other countries.
So let us know your thoughts on this. Will you guys be eating the Bill Gates lab-grown meat?
Well, it's interesting because Bjorn Lomborg in his book, False Alarm, does talk about how this might revive the meat industry.
We're going to go to the 3D printed meat.
A juicy, sizzling steak made by computer. While obtaining regular meat is a process that's been taking place for millennia, cow, butcher, beef, Redefined Meat, a meat alternative startup out of Israel, makes their product using a highly technical process. The mix of soy and pea protein, chickpeas, beetroot, nutritional yeast, and coconut fat is formed into steak-like shapes using a 3D printer.
Our goal is to become the largest meat company in the world just by harnessing technology instead of animals.
Meat substitutes are not new, but unlike the soy-based crumbles that mimic ground beef, Redefined Meat's product is designed to act, taste, and cut like flank steak.
This is the holy grail of alternative meat.
But the most important part, how does it taste? This diner was happy.
The texture.
Brother Dominique, you definitely want to stay away from soy. Soy gives you a chemical imbalance. It's not, I'm not going to say what soy does, but you definitely want to stay away from all soy products, all of it.
Feels right. Even the smell smells like the real thing. Really authentic. For me, it's revolutionary.
This is Inside Edition Digital.
So cultivated meat, put really simply, is real meat that is grown from animal cells. So if you imagine the meat that we have loved and eaten for tens of thousands of years, the meat that we cultivate is actually biologically the same, but it's made in a whole new way.
Meat through the DNA of the animal.
Ultimately, the cells do what they do. They like to double, they like to grow, and then ultimately they become meat. So after 7 to 14 days or a little longer, depending on what we're making, we harvest the cells, and then we can make it into any meat product that you love. So it could be a chicken fillet, it could be a hamburger, a hot dog, it could be pretty much anything that you can think of.
Getting USDA approval now opens up the pathway for us to sell cultivated meat here in the biggest market in the world, in a place that's one of the biggest meat producers in the world, and I think lends a lot of credibility towards what this is going to be in the future. So it'll be
FDA, because of the foods we eat that's put in the supermarkets, because of the foods we eat, we're going to be administered drugs later to keep us alive. That's the plan. And that's in that order. That's how it happens.
be a momentous, historic moment for the food industry. You know, whether it's an electric car or it's ChatGPT, it feels strange, a little peculiar initially, but after a period of time, it becomes ubiquitous and boring. And that's eventually the path for cultivated meat.
So the hurdles are the size of the investment, the scaling up, and who are you targeting as a customer? And especially who is going to eat this? If you're not forced to eat lab-grown meat, while you will be eating lab-grown meat. I mean, the real challenge would be, how can you make enough chicken meat in a fermenter at the cost of the chicken, which is the lowest one?
For some period of time, I would say it's at least 2 years, probably more than that. It'll be very small volumes. So think less than 5,000 pounds sold. And ultimately to get to a point where no matter who you are, you know, if you're hearing this, it'll be in your local grocery store, in your local restaurant, will.
Yes, correct. I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it. I hope this information was enlightening and definitely pertinent to us all. I'm thankful beyond words. That these are replays. You know, sometimes we have to be reminded of who our enemies are and the plans of our enemies. We have to plan like they plan, you know, and because if we fail to plan, we are planning to fail. This is your brother Nasir. This is the Enemies Public. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section. Peace.